Welcome back to the channel. I hope you enjoy. I met Lucifer in the desert, part 2. I knew he was there when the silence hit. That unrelenting silence always marks his arrival. The blues music abruptly stopped, and the couple was frozen mid-step of their running poise. The hairs on the back of my neck stood up. The fear that accompanied his presence washed over me like trumpets announcing the arrival. The world felt like it paused. I turned around to see the old man, eyes completely black, a slight grin on his lips as he looked at me. He motioned for me to come closer. I abided. He moved his hand in the gentlest of ease to stop me in my place. And with the same ease, he pointed a finger at the female jogger and closed it into his fist. The girl immediately got on all fours and ran like a dog at an intense speed. She stopped in front of Lucifer and bowed her head before his feet. He motioned with his finger once more, and she laid flat on her stomach with her arms stretched in front of her. Bones cracked and ligaments tore as her body contorted in a grotesque human chair. I had to turn my head to keep from vomiting. When I turned my head back, I saw her head positioned at the front of the seat. It would have been pretty close to my crotch if I sat in it. Her mouth was wide open. Care to sit? I think I'll stand. Thank you, though, I stuttered in fear. I think you should sit. He motioned with his hand to the demonic cathedra. I sat, not wanting the same fate. That's a good boy. Now let us go over some minor details, and I will let you get to work, Lucifer said. He put a red leather-bound book in my hand when he was done explaining the terms. He snapped his fingers, and everything went back as it was. The old man played his guitar, and no signs of damage on the girl as she appeared to be next to her boyfriend running. The way the red book worked was simple. Once I was done with the current collection, the next would appear in detail in the following pages of the book. If I lost the book, then, quote, I was fucked, in his exact words. Sometimes names were included. Sometimes it was just a description of details giving me fair game on anyone within the standards. I wasn't given a time limit, I just had to get it done, preferably before I died, or I was fucked, in Lucifer's own words. No hint was given if he actually knew my own expiration date. Even so, I probably wouldn't have wanted to know. Years passed from that point, and I became one hell of a collector, no pun intended. I was never left wanting for money. Assets and cash opportunities coincidentally happened to come my way. Signs of a dark figure watching my back. Lucifer didn't visit me after that day for a long time. Occasionally, I would get the hint he was watching me after a collection from subtle hints. A red apple tree appearing on the side of the road, a crow coming to my window once in a while, or about 10 birds hitting my windshield head-on while driving. I assumed he was upset about number 7 when the birds actually hit. 7 was the Virgin. I had to use Tinder to collect that piece. I made it quick and painless for her, but the next collection wasn't showing up in the book. I thought back to the conversation in the park and remembered. Anal sex canceled out the virgin status, something Lucifer laughed at every time he stated it. Harsh standards to make salvation, he had followed up with. Number 7 was the only one I had to redo. I had misread the instructions the first time, sodomy after the collection. Lucky for me, no name was ever given for this piece. I shuddered to think what would have happened if I fucked up on a specific name wanted. I hated everything that book instructed me to do. The acts grew increasingly heinous, each progression. Fear was what kept me running through the tasks. Fear of a dark angel that could make my already sealed fate worse than it was. Number 14 was Yaza, an escort who fronted as a massage therapist. I had made an appointment to see her in her makeshift office location. I scoped the building well before it was time. I knew every camera location, every corner of the building. I was able to arrive at the location almost a ghost to any means of traceability. I remember when she opened the door, her brown eyes, dark skin, curvy body. She was beautiful, like an Egyptian goddess. I kept myself concentrated so I wouldn't get distracted. I focused on how she had her purse in front of her when she greeted me at the front door, unzipped. She wanted quick reach to the pistol in there in case I got funny. I played along as she asked me a few questions. She had to make sure I wasn't a cop. All I needed was an arm's reach, and she wouldn't be breathing. I took off my shoes and unbuttoned my shirt from the top down. When she turned her back to reach for her cell phone, I asked her a random question to gauge whether she would answer by looking at me or continue what she was doing, distracted by her phone while talking. "What's a pretty gal like yourself doing in this kind of work?" I asked. She stared at her phone with her back to me. My hand was on my blade, ready for precision to the throat when she turned around to face me. She was out of arm's reach of her purse, and I moved silently behind her, tiptoeing until I was in perfect reach. "Because I have cancer," she said with her back still to me. Something inside me forced me to stop. I paused, feeling confused and shocked. I moved back, quick to my original position, further away without her hearing me. My mouth was stuck open. Something in me connected her when she uttered those words. Pictures flashed in my mind of her face in tears as she cut off her hair, preparing for the chemo. I could see her flailing to her knees in the doctor's office, hearing the diagnosis. I saw her clutching a picture of her mother, lying in her bed as she prayed in vain, not really believing but following the ritual, hoping for a miracle. My regular job can't cover the bills. She turned around and saw the tears coming down my eyes. I had never experienced this feeling before. All I wanted to do was protect her, and I had no idea why. Every painful thought she could have, I could feel. Her fear I could see, and I just wanted to tell her I could somehow make it all go away. "I'm so sorry. I shouldn't have told you that," she said while rushing to get me a tissue. I took a minute to compose myself and dry my eyes. I asked her to let me take her to dinner. I told her that was all I wanted from her, nothing more, no other services. She looked at me confused, probably partially thinking I was crazy. I pulled out cash, double what the session cost, and laid it on the massage table. I explained that I would understand if she was hesitant, but that I would wait outside for her for 20 minutes in case she wanted to go. I told her if she didn't, it was no hard feelings, and I would just leave. I never thought she would come out as I waited for her, but she did. I felt like my heart was on a roller coaster, excited and giddy just to have her company. I wasn't used to this kind of feeling, but I liked it. It wasn't the most ideal romantic start to a friendship, but it was a start nonetheless. She never knew how close she came to being in an obituary that night, but she didn't need to. It was a choice I made, and I knew I would have to pay for it at some point down the road. Over a year from that point, we were living together. I stayed right next to her through each treatment. I paid her medical bills and took care of her. I made it so she would never have to work. I promised her that I would never judge her for what she had to do in the past. I remember that look of joy in her eyes when the doctor told us the cancer was in remission. I would have given anything to make sure that joy would never leave her. Every night she would fall asleep in my arms, and I would stare at the ceiling and wonder if heaven was similar to how it felt just being around her. I only had an idea of what love was before I met Yaza. but I never thought I would be able to give that idea a feeling. That's the end of part 2. Thanks for taking the time to listen to one of my videos. I'll catch you in the next one. Ciao.